Good afternoon. My name is Jawan Skinner, and today I'll be speaking with Mrs. Mosley, who is a graduate of Texas Southern and currently works in the Office of Institutional Assessment Planning and Effectiveness. To inform you, Mrs. Mosley, this video will be broadcast on YouTube, so do I have permission to put you in this video?
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right, let's start with the questions. Where and when you were born?
I was born here in Houston, Texas, at the Houston Hospital for Negroes, there in the Third Ward area. I grew up in Huntsville, Texas. First 18 years of my life was spent in Huntsville, Texas, which is a small town just north of Houston, and about 75 miles north of Houston.
All right. Did your parents discuss race or racism with you?
I wasn't raised by my parents. I grew up with my grandparents, and it wasn't a conversation per se that we would have. We lived in a small town, and I lived the separate but equal life in a sense, because we had separate schools for the blacks from the Caucasians. We had separate doctors, waiting areas in the doctor's office. We had separate places to eat, separate bathrooms. So I lived that I was probably in about the 4th grade when they first started the integration process.
Oh, okay.
And so it was part of life. And one of the things I do remember is that there were some times when it became a little bit of a challenge for my grandfather. And he would just deal with it the best way he could.
Okay. What made you choose Texas Southern?
All of the members of my family attended and graduated from Prairie View A&M University. The entire educational cycle, pre-K through 12, I had to deal with the ideology of I was the daughter of, the granddaughter of, the niece of these individuals who had gone through the educational system there in Huntsville. And so I decided that once I became an adult and was going off to college, that I did not want to attend an institution where my uncle, my father, my mother, and such. So yes, I selected I took a different route.
All right. What did you study here in Texas Southern?
Social work.
Oh, and why did you pick it?
It's a complicated thing. It wasn't so much that I picked it. It kind of picked me because when I took those first level courses, sociology seemed to be the thing that stood out for me, that I enjoyed most. And I knew that just taking and majoring in sociology, that basically all I would be able to do was research and analysis. But I wanted to, at that point, help. I think that's one thing that most young people, when they first go off to college, is that they want to change the world and help people and do greater good and that type of thing. So I decided to go into social work, which would give me a blend of the sociology as well as put me in a position to do work. And a lot of people say, well, you don't work in that field now. I social work every day.
Yes, ma'am.
Anytime you have to deal with people in a way that we have to deal with people here in this office, you need those skills as a that you acquire as a social worker to do the job. So yeah.
All right. What were the important teachers and role models that helped you during Texas Southern?
Dr. Burrell, there's just so many. It's hard to put them all in order. Dr. Clarkson, he was the provost, and he had a sister who also taught here. I didn't take any classes from her, but I had an opportunity to meet her, and she was really a nice person to mentor, to talk to give you a perspective on what it was to be a professional woman. And that was one of the things that many of the female teachers provided, was that role model of professionalism, assertiveness, understanding the discipline. We had a professor in the math department, and she was very pivotal in getting us to understand that just because you are a female, math should not be a challenge. And then there were those other role models, like the Dean of Students, Dean Joseph Williams, who I worked for as a student worker. And that was probably the other reason why social work became such a intriguing field of study, because in his capacity as Dean of Students, he had to talk to students about their problems and assist them with their challenges as they were matriculating through the coursework at the institution. And he always talked about a balance between academics and social life, because we all must have a balance. He says that in many professions, you have to learn how to create a balance. So if you're going into a profession of being a doctor, you need to have an interest, a musical instrument, art, going to the theater, those types of things, to give yourself a balance, because the brain needs to have that balance in order to stay healthy.
Do you think HBCUs are important?
Yes, because that is the primary place where a young black person can see themselves in a model of success and not a model of oppression. So, yes, I believe that the HBCUs have a very good place. Even if the student transfers out and goes on to another institution at the Ivy League level, that experience that he takes away, that he will take away from that HBCU, cannot be taken back or replaced, especially if he comes from a place of where he has no male role models, or where she has no female role model that is working outside of the home, that is educated in or teaching or that type of thing. I was fortunate. My grandmother was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. My uncle was a teacher. So I was fortunate in that regard, that I did see people working in the profession outside of domestic engineering. I'm not saying that domestic engineering is not a profession. It takes a special type of person to work at home and raise children and not leave the home. Yes, I'm not belittling that, but by going to an HBCU, you have an opportunity to see people who are doing other things, engineers, businessmen, researchers, that type of thing, so that children can understand that there's a plethora of things out there that can be done, and it's not dictated by the color of your skin.
All right. Can you compare, when you was going to school here, can you compare from back then till now? Does it still have the same atmosphere?
No, it's a totally different atmosphere, because you've got to understand the time was different. It was, we were emerging from the civil rights movement. We were emerging from the Vietnam War. We were emerging from all these other conflicts that were closer to home than what we're dealing with now. Now, we are coming into a time where there are a lot of things that are coming into play that are similar, but the enrollment at Texas Southern at that time was predominantly black. Now we have a more diversified enrollment that looks more like the global universe that we live in. So we now have a much a melting pot, as they would say, of students that bring to the classroom a very diverse cultural experience for all that attend. So it's not the same in that regard, and it is not the same struggle that students had when I was in school. You know, it's a more global thing that's working now, and students have to have a better understanding of the world, as opposed to when I was in school, it was a better understanding of the community and community growth and development and expansion beyond the civil rights era.
All right. And this is my last question. What advice you would give to the younger generation?
Strive to be the best that you can be and enjoy life. Enjoy life.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this interview, and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. You too.
All right.